are actually starting with material. We're starting with the cosmological argument. And there's a lot of different cosmological arguments. They've been around for centuries. But they all have the same basic thing. Start with that. I'm going to parse the word because I'm parsing the dictionary. Anyway, so the causal part, we have the same word in English. It's just the cosmos, the universe. Logic, logos, another thing that you're probably all familiar with. It's just the reasoning behind or the study of. So all the cosmological arguments just take some aspect of the universe and use it to prove that some sort of God figure exists. Some of them are more effective than others. The one I'm going to use today is called Coulomb's cosmological argument. Its biggest proponent is Dr. William Lane Craig. He did his thesis paper on this and continues to do research. And so pretty much all of my lesson is directly from him. I can't add anything to what he said.
What was the argument again?
Coulomb.
Okay.
The version he uses, he takes a little bit from an early Islam argument actually, and then he refines it and adds some more stuff to it. So I can write that down. Look at each one and look at support and challenges for each one. And then if both of them stand up, then the conclusion is logical. So premise number one, whatever begins to exist has a cause. And then the second premise is the universe began to exist. And if these two are true, then it follows that the universe has a cause. Now, as you will see at the end, this alone does not prove the Christian God. I'm not saying it does. And you can extrapolate from that to learn more about what this cause is. But I will acknowledge that this all by itself does not prove the Christian God. So the first one, whatever begins to exist has a cause. This is empirically verified all the time. You don't see things popping into existence uncaused. Two of the biggest objections to this is, the first one is based on one theory of quantum mechanics. It's the Copenhagen interpretation. Niels Bohr is the father of this interpretation. And according to this interpretation of quantum mechanics, certain subatomic particles, such as mostly positron living, can sometimes come into existence seemingly without a cause from the quantum vacuum. There are a couple problems with this. One problem is that not all quantum interpretations say that when these things exist, that they're uncaused. There's another interpretation from a guy named David Bohm. And this one is equally as valid in every way as the Copenhagen interpretation. But his interpretation says that although we do not know why these quarks or whatever come into existence, that they are not uncaused. That's a determinate explanation, and the Copenhagen interpretation is indeterminate. Another confusion here is that the quantum vacuum that these particles would be coming from is not a vacuum of nothingness. It is energy fluctuation, and there's something there. So it's still not something popping into existence from nothing. Another challenge to this comes from using Occam's razor, but it's not using Occam's razor properly. Occam's razor says, look, the argument is that proposing a cause is unnecessary, and so according to Occam's razor, you would get rid of that. But what Occam's razor says is that you should not multiply causes beyond necessity. It doesn't mean that you can get rid of a necessary cause because it's a cause. So it's like saying, an illustration that Dr. Craig uses is if you find fossils, you would expect that a dinosaur or something had been there and had left them. You wouldn't say, we just don't need a cause. There is a necessary cause. I mean, this isn't quite the same as a whole universe, but it's an analogy. Okay. And does anybody else have anything to say about the first premise? Yeah.
I have a question that I think I've seen other formulations arguments by Craig that are a lot more complicated. There's like the simplified version.
Yeah.
The other one that talks about infinite series and everything.
Well, that's in the second point.
Okay.
Because I'll be talking about that next.
Gotcha.
Anybody else have any, needing any clarification, any other challenges for the first point? Okay.
Not
So,
really a challenge, but go on, I'll address it later.
well, you can say it now.
Yeah, like I said, I'll address it later as you continue to go through the proof, because I want to see where he goes for this first.
Okay. The next one is that the universe began to exist. This has come up against a lot more challenge than this has. And so there have been several theories of the universe that have tried to get around the universe beginning to exist. The oldest is this steady state theory that the universe has always been like this. That has been counted in several ways. The biggest one is the red tent that we can observe through the Hubble telescope. If something has a red tint to the light, we can assume that it's moving away from us. That starts with a white sort of light. So here's our lovely little star. They don't look like that. You all know that, whatever. So the wavelength of the light, like this and whatnot, but if it's rushing ahead, the wavelength would sort of stretch. It's kind of like with the Doppler effect, where as the ice cream truck is coming, it sounds higher pitched, and when it passes you, it suddenly drops a half step.
Redshift.
Yeah. And so this is evidence that parts of the universe are moving away from us. There are some other things that I won't go into that also discount steady state. But most people don't use that objection anymore. Another one that also didn't last too long is called the oscillating universe. I actually have a dance move for the oscillating universe, but I won't do that.
Oh.
What?
That's another meeting.
Yeah, it's really short, but I don't like to dance. What?
I did swing club Thursday night. So
Tuesday.
that was close.
Wait until Tuesday night.
Okay.
Talk to Julia. So the oscillating universe proposes that the universe is continually expanding, exploding, and then collapsing upon itself. And then when it collapses, it's not perfectly distributed in its collapse, and certain parts can escape to explode again. The part with just with that is that the amount of energy escaping to explode again would be smaller each time. So we can't expect that to go on infinitely. Another problem is, and I'm sorry I don't have the names for these scientists. I can't remember who it is. No, I just copying it under that. But there is a mass that you would have to expect the universe to be able to slow down in its expansion and collapse again. And the estimated mass of the universe is anywhere near that. So it's not just, okay, we don't know the numbers, so we aren't sure. We can't expect that at all. And also, if such a great mass were to collapse on itself, we have no reason to believe that it would begin to expand again. And so, the oscillating universe is another one that people don't really use anymore. Most of the ones that are used now end up having problems with an infinite regress of events, which I'll go into later. One of them is called bubble theory and also membrane theory. It's just pretty much, you've got a universe, and as it expands, things collide, and there's another universe, and so it kind of keeps on bubbling off. But the problem with that is it just pushes back the beginning. It doesn't get rid of it. There still has to be a cause to whichever the first universe was. So those are some scientific reasons to believe that. Right now, Big Bang cosmology is the best explanation we have for the description of the beginning of the universe. And and it does propose a singularity, a point from which everything, time, matter, and energy